Welcome to Selfish Contributors Podcast. I'm your host, Taya Karner, happiness coach and spiritual teacher that is here to challenge your perception of life. I believe divine selfishness is what is needed to live with happiness and peace while contributing to the world in your highest potential. So let's dive in and join me and my guests in the episodes full of inspirational stories, deep spirituality, and unique perspectives of life.
Occurrence in my life.
Oh, I started recording.
Oh.
Well, hello everyone.
Hi.
I have what?
Oh no. I was just gonna do a chocolate check because
you can still do it. You're fine.
I don't know. It's okay.
She was just eating chocolate, so she just wanted to check if her teeth are
Yeah.
good, but we don't let her. I don't know why I pressed recording already, but it doesn't matter. So this is typically how our life works and how it all looks like. Nothing is perfect, yet everything is like spontaneous and joyful and exciting. And for those of you that are following me on Instagram, I probably don't need to do the special introduction for this beautiful lady here. Her name is Heidi, and I actually pick her up as a friend in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to start with our story.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I would say I picked you up as a friend.
Okay. Sorry.
But no, it's true. We met in August 2017.
Yeah.
So that would be almost 2 years ago. Ty and I met at a jiu-jitsu competition.
I wasn't competing.
Yes, I noticed her because I had some sort of European accent, and that was quite early on when I first started traveling. So, I was just interested in talking with her, obviously. And one thing led to another, and we found out that I shared that I wanted to move to Denmark. And then she said, "Oh, I lived in Denmark."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Yeah, I'm looking to study nutrition." She says,
I
"Yes,
studied nutrition.
I study nutrition." And then I said, "Yeah, okay, cool. I'm also trying to, travel more and be, maybe do some coaching online or do some sort of work online so I can fund my travels." And Taya says, "I do that." So it was obvious that we clicked from the start and had a lot of things in common. And I think I just remember almost trusting her immediately and feeling that we had this connection and that I saw a lot of myself in her when I was traveling, which was really like you were on no agenda and kind of just letting things happen. And one of the first things that came to my mind was, oh my gosh, I can finally repay the kindness that I've received in my travels, and so many people have taken me in on a whim, and now I can do this for somebody else. So that was the beginning of our friendship.
Yeah. And then I stayed with her in San Diego for another week or so.
Yeah. So within, I think, 24 hours of meeting, she decided not to go back to LA, which is the original plan. I just said, "You should stay here and hang out." So we did. And then we spent a week paddleboarding and exploring San Diego.
And we lost the keys in the middle of the ocean in San Diego because of me.
Yeah. I lost my car keys.
So not just car keys. It was
my work keys.
Everything.
All of my keys, really. But it was an amazing week. And I think, right off the bat, we had it was just an easy connection and we got along very well.
So since we already started this topic, I really want to know what got you into traveling and just being so adventurous and just following your heart and going with the flow.
Sure. Okay, so I first started traveling 4 years ago. I had moved from San Diego to Istanbul for 6 months. It was just to study abroad. And this was kind of also somewhat of an accident. I was going into my senior year, and at that moment I had realized that I was about to graduate and I hadn't studied abroad or traveled at all like I had kind of always hoped for. I was in a serious relationship at the time, and so I was pretty much very consumed with that and jujitsu, and so I didn't have any friends outside of jujitsu, and my best friend was my boyfriend. So yeah, just right before starting, I'd realized like, wow, I kind of put a lot on hold. And I'm about to graduate, and I got scared because I didn't feel like I had accumulated much life experiences. So on a whim, I kind of scrambled together and tried to see if I could still apply to study abroad. So after looking into things, I saw, okay, Turkey might be an interesting option. I mean, I don't really know anything about Turkey. I was very unworldly and quite ignorant, to be honest with you. I just had no sense of anything outside of my bubble. So I kind of just went for it because it sounded interesting. It was very cheap, so it fit my budget, and it had free accommodation, so that pretty much sold it for me. I applied, and the process was a bit messy, and I think that kind of foreshadowed probably the journey, just because it was a bit lighthearted and like, oh yeah, you got it, it's cool, and yeah, it'll be fine. So I was a bit more nervous at the time. I remember going through this, and I couldn't, and because it was so laxed, it was very hard for me to deal with. I was just in a very structured mindset and structured lifestyle. So anyways, I ended up getting into the program, and instead of graduating my second semester, I take off for this study abroad. So that was a huge deal to me because I had worked so hard to graduate on time. I was on financial aid. My family doesn't have money or anything like that. And I was one of the first people in my family to get a college degree. So I just felt an urgency to finish. And this was the first selfish thing I ever did, was going on this trip to study abroad. And it meant delaying my semester, or delaying my graduation for a semester. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. It was just, I had this realization one day, woke up and thought I need to go, because if I don't do it now, then when I'm going to graduate, and I don't know how I would start, and this seemed kind of like the easiest way to begin.
Got it. I can relate to this so much, because that's like exactly how I started. Like it was 4 years ago, moving to Denmark for studying, like the first selfish thing I ever did, because I just couldn't stand being at one place anymore. So yeah, like you see, we are so like similar in so many ways. But the funny thing is that we could say that maybe like we are similar now with the mentality and everything that's happening and how we are approaching traveling, but we have a very different story. And I really love the transformation of your story and like everything that happened to you, because it's just such a huge contrast. So do you mind sharing it with us?
No, I don't mind. Okay, where
and
how should I start? So my both of my parents are immigrants. My mom had moved from Vietnam. Actually, she had moved from Macau. I believe she was a refugee in Macau for a few years. So after the Vietnam War, she left and went to Macau, and then got relocated to America, I think a few years after that. And my father's from Malaysia, and they'd met in America. But anyway, so that meant I grew up in a very unique household. It meant, my parents were not American, and I grew up in a very different environment at home. And so I had different customs and a different way of life. And I grew up with I guess, more, I don't know, Asian mentality, right? Of this is how things were done in our house. And it was very different from Westernized society. So I found this to be an interesting way to grow up. At least now I look at it as very beneficial, and I appreciate having that experience. But that meant it was kind of difficult to fit in as a kid. A lot of things that they did were just, I couldn't understand because my friends couldn't understand. And I think it was hard just because of the contrast. I could see how my westernized friends were being treated, and then I just would see how I was treated at home, and a lot of things didn't make sense. And you can't comprehend this as a child, right? You just feel like the weird kid. But I mean, I was also lucky enough to have been born in a place where there was lots of other immigrants. So there were people I could relate to. However, I don't think it was until I left this area, so when I went off to college, that I had really realized what a different American experience I had. Because now at the age of 18, I had met people who were in middle class, upper middle class, and this was something I'd never really encountered in my life. And growing up, I was Asians and Hispanics were predominantly the majority. So we were used to being around other people of the, more or less the same, and that we found quite relatable. And then all of a sudden I was the minority. And then, I just started feeling quite different. And I think this kind of rocked my world a bit. And that's when I moved from Los Angeles, or kind of a suburb of Los Angeles, to San Diego for university. And this was, my first exposure to the real world and outside of my household. So the first time I had my own room was when I was 18, had my own space, and just got away and from my family and the environment I grew up in. So I think that was, the beginning of my journey, I would say.
And then, especially when you got to San Diego, for me, an experience was when I first moved away, and I thought everything would be fixed when I moved. It usually wasn't like that. That's when the journey started, and that's when the exploration of yourself started. So how did you experience those years when you moved? Was it a click, oh no, I feel so much better? Or was it still a hard battle to fight?
So it was actually very difficult for me in the beginning, because none of my friends were leaving for college. The majority of them didn't graduate high school. We were, abusing substances and drinking a lot. And my friends were just in, a very different kind of group. I don't know how to say, but we were just in different spaces. And I mean, I was in that same space before I left, to be honest with you. So being the only person to leave, it was quite hard, but it was something I knew I had to do. Otherwise, I didn't think I would survive maybe the next 10 years. I remember discussing with one of my best friends who actually did end up passing when I was 18. And we had talked about how we didn't think we were going to live long. And I would share, I don't see my life past 25. I just can't see it. And he said, I don't see my life past 18. And at 6 months into being 18, he passed. So what propelled me was, he was 1 year older than me. So I was in my senior year of high school, and this had happened just a few weeks before I was about to graduate. And I had picked my college already in San Diego, and I was still a bit, iffy. I'm leaving behind everything I know. I'm leaving behind my friends. I know I have to do it, but it's still hard. It's still my comfort zone that I'm leaving. But I remember talking to one of my best friends, he was, I think, talking to this girl. It was an ex-girlfriend of his. And she just wanted to tell me, he was so proud of you that you're going to school and you're going to leave here and that you're just going to get out. So I really held on to that. And I thought, okay, I have to do better. And so I left. I didn't look back, and it was hard because I had to cut off basically all of my friends. I mean, it was a slow process, and I remember in the first semester I thought so many times, like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, because I couldn't relate to anyone around me. I just felt so out of place. And yeah, so it was a very hard transition. I went cold turkey on everything. I quit. I threw myself into studies, and I threw myself into martial arts. So I'd been training since I was 16, but I decided I want to take it more seriously. So I, basically switched addictions and just trained day and night. I would wake up and train. I would go to class, and then at night I would train again for hours. And this is all I did. I didn't make any friends at the time because I was so consumed with staying busy and training and not having any more negative influences. And I needed that. I needed to heal. And then, in my second semester, I met my my boyfriend, who he wasn't at university. He was one of the instructors that helped me with jiu-jitsu. And, that helped a lot, because now I had someone to share this passion with, and it was so positive, and he wasn't a person that ever been into really anything reckless. So it was very safe, and I had a stable life for the first time in my life. So I would say the beginning was quite a transition. It was difficult, but it helped to have martial arts, and helped to have a partner, and it helped to just have this stability away from LA, where it was only 2 hours away, but I felt far enough where I could do my own thing and move on.
It's such an interesting story. And I feel like what I'm preaching for people is that whenever they want to come to the next level in life, so if they want to grow from where they are to a next level, it's going to require for them to step away from the environment where they are already in, because we are a sum up of 5 people that we are hanging out with.
Yeah.
So if you are hanging out with those 5 people, if you want to be a different person, you have to step back and start meeting new people, so that you start getting a new perspective, new hobbies, whatever. It's you just change your way of being. And I feel like the hardest part, and the reason why a lot of people don't do it, is because usually between having those people around you and having a new group of people around you, there is a period where you have to be yourself. Like you said, you were in the period where you were oh, I don't know if I should just go back, because this doesn't feel natural, doesn't feel good to me. And I feel like that's important for people to know, that when they're going to go through transition, there's going to be a period when they're going to be oh shit, did I make a mistake? Should I just go back? I'm here by myself. I have no one. And what would you say that it's the best advice that you can get to people that are in that space of transition and being by themselves and not feeling support from people?
Okay. So my best advice for that would be just to keep on going. You stepped away for a reason, and of course it's going to be uncomfortable, but what's more uncomfortable to experience this, short period of, maybe it's very intense and it's, you're not used to that, but it's dealing with that versus dealing with a lifelong thing of a lifelong term of uncomfortness. Maybe it's just a little bit, but it eats away at you each day. You're uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to do something about it. So my advice would be just to push through that period, know that you stepped out for a reason, and know that you need to make that space and time for yourself to allow better things to come in. Because, I used to have this mentality that I genuinely believed this world was shit. I believed people were shit. I believed I remember having so many trust issues, and just, yeah, in my heart, like in the deepest part, I genuinely felt like there was not another good person in this world. And and now in feeling the way that I do, it's the complete opposite. And it didn't happen overnight. It took years. And I would say I didn't actually feel this way until probably within the last year or so, where I came to a place, and now I look around and most of my friends probably see me doing this a lot. It's like I'm always crying, like happy crying about my friends to my other friends.
Yeah.
And if I sit and think about my friends for too long, I will just start crying, but of happiness, because everyone is so wonderful. And everywhere I go, every time I'm traveling, I'm crossing paths with somebody, or I can meet up with a friend that feels like family. And so, yeah, I guess just that was really just to share, like, it's worth it to go through that pain, because had I never made the space for that, had I never, cut off the people that didn't necessarily serve me anymore, I wouldn't have the space for these kinds of people. I wouldn't have the space for these amazing people that, now just like fill up my life and my room and my heart, right? Because you're so consumed. Negativity like consumes you, right? It just takes over you. And so how can you see the amazing people in this world? How can you see the opportunities? And how can you see, just really everything that you deserve if you're consumed in this negativity? And that includes people and yeah, so I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, but it is. Because it's really like the way you picture it, it really sounds like you kind of level up your standard of friends, let's say, before you had a perception that everyone is just like a bad person, and you also were okay with having your friends doing some bad things to you, or, not really like having your back all the time. So I feel like when you open up yourself for like, the first thing is, of course, stepping up for yourself, because I think you set the example of how you treat yourself. You set the example of how you allow other people to treat you.
Yeah,
and then you would just attract that kind of people. You attract people that have the same kind of a standard of how they want to be treated and what kind of friendship they want to have. So yeah, I feel like all this journey that you had gave you like so much faith that it's now shown also in your way of traveling. And like, do you have any specific way, or like maybe even your story, how did you build that faith? Because that's the hardest one for people. Like we often, we often say to people, yeah, just travel, like just go hitchhiking from Czech to Germany, and just believe and like
people and their kindness.
And we like everything that we do is like a lot of faith. We don't question it. We decide what we want to do. We are currently in Czech. Yesterday we were we wanted to go to Germany. We just say, there was no buses or anything. We just say like, okay, we're just gonna hitchhike. So we hitchhiked there, got a ride, and then on the way back we were even like, oh, we want to stop in Lidl on the way back, so we're just gonna hitchhike twice, one stop to Lidl and then another one to come back. And we didn't even think about like, oh, will anyone stop us? What if we got like a person that wants to do something to us or whatever, it's always this thoughts, but like we didn't have it, because it's like, I don't know, it just becomes so natural. You just trust. There's like such a big level of faith, but I know you have to build it. So there's a lot of people that don't have it, and they just wonder like, how the F you build it.
So I would say I built it by traveling. The first trip I took, so after Istanbul, I decided I would backpack around Europe by myself for a month. And this was the first time that I had, like done anything like this. And I didn't think about it too much. I just went for it. So after Istanbul, I left. I flew to Berlin, actually, in Germany, and then I went to Amsterdam. So I think this is one of the stories that really gave me faith in the world and in people. And yeah, if you know me or you're close to me, I've probably told you this story because it's one of my favorite stories. So on my first trip, I had just been a weekend. I'd done a week maybe in Berlin, and then I was in the middle of my Amsterdam bit before I was moving to Switzerland. In Switzerland, I was actually going to meet a friend that I knew from jiu-jitsu, and at the time, my boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. And so I had like a couple weeks on my own before I was going to have a very short period of time with some friends. And while I was in Amsterdam, on my second to last day, I had to switch hostels. So I'm switching hostels. It's the middle of the day. I decide to go into this room, or I have to check in. So I go into this room and I leave my things on the bed. There's not a person around, and I just had to go to the restroom for a couple minutes. So I leave my things on the bed, and while I'm in the restroom, I heard a door slam, but I didn't think too much about it. Staying there for maybe another minute, just finishing up my makeup or something. And then I come out and I see, okay, that's weird. I feel like someone was in here, but I don't know. Didn't think too much about it. So then I had to book something. I think I was trying to book tickets to see the Anne Frank house, right? And I look for my wallet. I'm scrounging around my purse. My phone is there. My GoPro is there. So my valuables, basically. But my wallet isn't there. And I start to panic. Like, okay, maybe it's in my backpack. I have a pretty big backpack. So I start searching and searching. After, an hour of turning my things inside out, I realized, like, I think someone came in here and took my wallet, which at the time I couldn't comprehend. I was like, well, why wouldn't they have just taken my entire purse? Mm-hmm. So maybe that kind of also shows like the mentality that I had is like, no, people want to take everything. And so it was just hard for me to comprehend. And I think I was just very upset and I didn't know what to do. And it was about 3:00 in the afternoon. I hadn't eaten anything. And I was very much a person that got hangry at the time. So I didn't know how to deal with this. And so that meant I didn't have any money. I didn't have my credit cards. And I felt all was lost. And what am I going to do? I'm traveling alone in Europe. And now I don't have credit cards, money. I don't have anything. So I decide, okay, I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to go to Vondel Park. If you've ever been to Amsterdam, this park is massive. There's probably thousands of people that go through there in a day, right? There's so many people. So I decided I need to go sit in a park and just do whatever it is I have to do, which I didn't know what it was at the time, but I went to this park. I sat on a bench and I cried for maybe 2 hours. So I just let it all out. And then at the end of this cry, I thought, you know what? Took a deep breath and acknowledged that I was still very lucky and grateful to have been in a place where I was still traveling. My problems were small. I thought, okay, you're in Amsterdam. You're in the Netherlands. Like you've never been in Europe before. And this is your first trip. This is like a first world problem. You're not dying. You lost your wallet. Okay, there's solutions. Maybe you don't know what that solution is right now, but that's okay. So then I felt a sense of relief. And I thought, all right, it's about 5, 6 o'clock. Just get up, go to sleep. You're going to wake up tomorrow. You already booked a train. So your train's at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. It's less than, it's about 24 hours. You're going to be in Switzerland. Like you're going to take a train to Switzerland. You're going to wake up in Switzerland, and then your friend is going to be there, and you're obviously not going to starve. You just need to get through, a couple days on your own. That's okay. You can figure that out. So after this mental decision, I get up. I start walking out of the park. And then I run into these 2 German guys that I was with the day before. And we had tried getting in contact, I think that morning, but Wi-Fi, and it just didn't work out. So I run up to these guys. I start talking to them for a bit, and we exchanged some words. I kind of just said, yeah, I have to go back to the hostel. I don't have any money, and this whole situation happened, and now this is what's going on. And one of the guys pulls out his wallet and says, "Oh, I have 100 euros on me. No big deal. Just take it and you can pay me back whenever." And I was so blown away because no one had ever, I mean, I just couldn't believe that a stranger would trust me. Yeah, he met me once, but I could have taken this money and never paid him back. He doesn't know me, you know, and so this shocked me. This was the first thing that happened. And then after that, so I had money for the night. I went and bought my dinner, went on, was very happy. Then the next day I found out one of my high school acquaintances would be in town. Cool, I don't have to spend the day alone. So I meet up with this high school acquaintance. We go through the day together, and my train was at 8 o'clock at night, so I had the whole day to kind of kill. And we spend the day, and at the end of the night, I realized, okay, you're down to maybe 10, 20 euros at most. You can either eat or you can sleep. So, you know, that meant taking something from a coffee shop in the Netherlands. And then I think, oh, I can just kind of do both and take a space cake. I go into a shop and I tell the gentleman working, I said, I really need for this to work because I have a 12-hour train and I'm starving. I don't have any more money, so I need to get through the night. And yeah, like it's gonna work, right? And he said, yeah, it'll be fine. And if it doesn't, just come back. So I eat the space cake, and then this time my friend and I had separated around this period, and I still had a couple more hours, so my train was going to take off. So then maybe an hour in, I decide, you know, I'm just going to go back. I'm not sure this is working, and I was actually just kind of bored walking around. I thought maybe I should talk to this person. He seems very nice. So I go back and I say, hey, it's not working out, or, you know, probably could, I think I need something heavier to put me to sleep later. He says, no problem. This is on me. So hands me a couple joints, and then I just asked him, like, hey, would you like to share this with me? So he's like, oh, sure, that would be very nice. So he ends up sharing it with me. And then a couple hours later, I look at my time and realize, oh, I have to train to catch. And a couple hours had gone by. And so before I left, I asked him, like, hey, or just like thanked him actually for being so kind, because in that period he was offering me water and coffee and anything else I needed, and just very catering. And so I thanked him for that, and I'd asked him, like, wow, you just like ditched 2 hours of work. He's like, it's no big deal. My father owns this place, and you seemed like very nice company, and I just enjoyed, you know, spending this time with you. So that was also another very pleasant experience. Sent me, you know, some stuff on the way and said, here. I remember he gave me a kiss on the hand. That was it. And said, it's lovely meeting you. I hope you come back. You know where to find me. And good luck on the rest of your journey. And that was it. Didn't ask for my phone number. Didn't try to make any moves on me. Had no other agenda. Again, very foreign concept to me. Yeah. Right? I'm not used to men doing things, or people in general doing something so nice for me and just going, all right, cool, I helped you, and see you later. Good luck. So then I slept the entire way on the train, 12 hours. I wake up in Switzerland. Amazing. I feel very good about what's happened so far. I wake up in Switzerland, and now it's 8 a.m. I go to the park across the street from the Zurich train station, and I sit very calmly, and I thought, wow, this, like, taking it easy and no panicking thing has worked out in my favor. I've been able to just, like, I haven't been alone. I haven't been hungry. I've gotten my sleep. Like, I've gotten all the necessities that I've needed without any money. And then that's when I get a text message from this very nice guy that I met in Berlin the week before. And he just wanted to check in on my trip and see how it was going. And at this point I said, yeah, I had just gotten to Zurich, and this is what's going on, but it's all good. I mean, I'm having a very nice time. And he says, you're in Zurich? I just got back here. I live here.
Wow.
And he's like, I'm moving to Boston in 3 days. So you're literally catching me in the middle of my move. He's like, I need a break from packing. I would love to buy a meal for you if you would let me. And so again, sitting at this talk thinking like, how could all of this be happening? And so he's like, hey, drop me your pin. You send him my pin. He's like, you're 10 minutes away from where I am. He's like, I'll be there in like 30, 45 minutes. And there he is, 30, 45 minutes, shows up. And he's sitting next to me and he goes, you look very calm. How? Because I would be in a state of panic right now. And then I go on to explain everything that's happened in the last 2 days. And then now he was here right in front of me. And then so we just shared this like very nice moment. He took me to lunch and I was just so grateful. And then he hung out with me until my friend was able to meet me, because my friend wasn't going to be able to meet me until like later on in the day. And my friend calls me. I couldn't even explain where I was. So hand the phone to this guy and they do Swiss German. And then they figure out how to transfer me, basically. So he helped me get to my friend. And then when I was with my friend, of course, you know, I was safe with him and my ex, and spent the next few days with them, got a credit card rushed to my friend's house so that it arrived on the very last day, I believed. So it was lucky because I was staying in hostels up until this point, right? Mm-hmm. And the entire thing worked out. I left Switzerland with a lot of faith. And yeah, this story just brings me so much joy because
that's beautiful.
Never a moment did I go anything without a necessity.
That's really beautiful. And I think that what we can get from this story is that you get the faith when you test it, you know. It's like in the situations where you have nothing else to do than having faith, because otherwise you can just panic. You can like, there's nothing you can really physically do instead of like,
exactly,
I guess it's happening for a reason. And I can so much relate to that, because I feel like I was tested also like in the situations where, you know, you're like basically screwed and you're like, shit, what will I do? But then it's like, okay, I guess this is going to teach me something. I guess it's going to bring me something. It will figure it out. And it happens, you know? So that's beautiful. I think that people will get a lot from that. And I think that the advice that we can give you is to try to test your faith and just go, like just travel.
Yeah. So this, I would say this story set up the foundation for my faith. But of course I kept testing it over and over again. As I got more experience and I would say more courage, I started to book trips where it became more loose in the travel plans. I no longer booked every single hostel. I no longer saw where I went. And then eventually I came to a place where I would just book the flight in or out. And that was it. And I would just show up. With complete faith. And I would do this to test it. And I would have the most amazing time with the most incredible people who would just show up and be there when I needed them.
Yeah.
And without asking, they just walk into my life just like that. And I have so many of these incredible stories because I was just open for them. And I guess I just wanted to believe in the world and believe in people. And honestly, I think this is why I'm such a big advocate for travel. Because it just showed me how kind the world is and how kind people are. And again, I've experienced and felt, in my veins that I genuinely have a distrust in people and that there's not a person out there who exists that's good because of the people I was surrounded by. And I didn't grow up in, the most uplifting, normal family household. So I didn't have this like kind of support at home. So when you grow up in that kind of environment, how else are you supposed to think? You know, this is your norm. This is everything that you know. So just being able to step outside of that and experience other people, experience just different ways of living. It's and different ways of thinking. Also, it showed me that there's not one right or wrong way to live, and that at the end of the day, we're all more alike than we think, because I think we all, in general, want the same things, you know, as human beings, like the same basic necessities, and we all crave to have a purpose and to do good. And, you know, sometimes this is expressed incorrectly, or we don't know how to interpret it. But at the end of the day, I genuinely believe people try hard, you know, so it might not come across like that, but you don't know what's going on in their life. And I can say that for sure, because I spent, the majority of my life, the first part of my life, being a very angry person, because I was being hurt all the time. So this is all I knew, you know, so I think it's important to also remember that, and that people didn't wake up and thought, I want to be in a terrible mood. I want to inflict pain on others. I would say 98% of people in this world don't think that way. So, you know, just remember it's not intentional. And I think that helps me a lot with putting my faith in people.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel like we're gonna record this podcast many times. We can actually set it up like anytime we are actually meeting, traveling together somewhere, we can record one. Because now she is living in Denmark. Like we first met, and she said that this is her goal. She's studying in Denmark, she's studying nutrition there. So everything come to life. And I just feel like now that we are so much closer, we can just, you know, she can just text me, hey, I'm going to Czech Republic this week. And I was like, okay, I have time. So I feel like this will happen a lot of times.
I think
and every time we can like dig deeper in the topics that are shaped in your like that are, I wanted to use this linear expression, but it's cannot be translated, so I'm rather not saying it. But is there anything else that you want to, like, the last thing that you want to share with people? Because then we have to go and catch the bus.
Oh, that's right. We have to go and catch a bus. No, I mean, I think we sum it up. So, I think we summed it up pretty well. And I mean, if you're interested in, I guess, following my journey or stories, you can look me up. I'm probably tagged all over Heide's stuff at the moment.
So you find her at Where is Heidi, because she's traveling all the time. I'll also post the link to your profiles below, so that you can start like actually following her. And she's like a person that travels a lot, and she's super fun and super inspirational, and I love her. So she's playing a huge part in my life. So I want you guys to have the opportunity to meet her, because because of the inspiration that she shares with me, and now I know she shared it with you as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this experience.
And we will talk again soon, whenever we meet the next time.
Soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys for listening, and talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.